discretion is advised. Right, Briley? Your discretion is advised.
And the M&Ms weren't working. I said, okay, let me grab you some more painkillers. I ran into our kitchen, but when I opened the cabinet to grab some Tylenol, it was empty. I shook the bottles and nothing came. I ran back into the living room screaming his name. Dominic, did you eat these? Did you eat the whole bottle? He was crying harder now. Yes, I ate all the red M&Ms. I just wanted the headache to stop. Why am I in so much pain after eating red M&Ms? I looked at his face and his pupils were massive. I picked him up and ran toward the front door without shoes and threw him into the back seat. I was driving to the ER in my socks, having no idea what 50 Tylenols could do to an 8-year-old, but I knew I couldn't waste a single second. I was running every yellow light, honking at people to move. We were stopped at a red light, and he started shaking. Then it got faster and faster. His whole body started shaking, and it all hit me that he was having a seizure. I screamed his name. I hit 3 curbs pulling into the hospital parking lot, not even turning the car off. I ran toward those automatic doors holding my son, and when they slid open, every single person in that waiting room turned and looked. Dom was moaning, barely conscious, and there was foam starting to form around his mouth. I heard a woman say, "Oh my God, that kid has rabies." I ignored all of them. I ran straight past the check-in desk toward the back, yelling for help. Help! Somebody help my son! Nurses came rushing out, and before I knew it, they had him on a stretcher and were wheeling him down the hallway. I tried to follow, but someone grabbed me. They told me I couldn't go back there. They guided me to the waiting room, and I just sat there furious. And that's when I remembered what Dom said in the car. The red M&Ms. He said his teacher told him that. I hopped back into my dented car and soon walked into his school still just in my socks. My son's teacher, Mr. Janik, was sitting at his desk when I found him. Chair pumped all the way up because he was 5'2". I yelled, "M&Ms? You told a 7-year-old that Tylenol is red M&Ms?" He instantly looked nervous, shriveling his shoulders together. He said, "I was just joking. I thought I should teach them how to take medicine at an early age. My son almost died." I looked at his right jaw, and I swung as hard as I possibly could and watched the red fly out of his mouth as he fell back.
Is she gonna get arrested?
My phone died while I was babysitting my cousins one night, so I was forced to sit and watch Cocomelon with them. But while I sat there, I kept hearing a weird sound. I thought it was coming from the show, but when I turned the volume down, I heard it again. Something metal. It was real. Their house was old and scary, and tried to convince myself it was just the house settling. But when I realized it was coming from the basement, I felt myself sweating. I walked over to the basement door and heard the sound again, but as soon as I opened the door, I saw it was pitch black down there. The sound immediately stopped. My gut was screaming at me that something was wrong, and when I looked at my little cousins, I knew I wasn't risking their lives. My phone was still dead, so I picked up their old phone and dialed 911. I told them I was home alone and heard something, but there was no need
Your
for rush
bestie's
because it was
typing in
probably
our
nothing.
group
She
chat.
told me to lock the door, so I did, and sat back down. But only 4 minutes later, I heard sirens. Someone banged on the door as both my cousins shot up. "Is that Paw Patrol?" But I got up and answered it. The cops ran in saying, "Are you okay? Did anything happen?" I was confused, but they started searching the house. They made us wait outside, telling me it wasn't safe in there. I thought this was a lot for just hearing something, but then I heard them shouting. I had no idea what was going on, and my mind was racing. Who was down there? I heard more yelling, and when they came back up, I gasped. They were dragging a guy outside who looked homeless. He was staring at me, smiling, and I found out he was down there the whole time. That noise was him hitting a large knife against the dryer to lure me down, and when I called the police, after I hung up, the operator could still hear breathing. He was listening on a different phone.
Bro,
My phone
your
died while I was
your
babysitting my
bestie's
cousins one
just
night, so I was
spamming
forced to
the
sit and watch Cocomelon.
Oh, shit.
But while I sat there, I kept
Oh,
The
sorry.
librarian tried to rupture my daughter's eardrum.
I
brought
told
my
him
5-year-old Chelsea to the library
viewer
for children's
discretion
reading
was
hour.
advised,
But when
so
she
you
sat
can
down, the
cuss.
librarian walked up to
Oh,
her and pointed
fuck
at
yeah.
Chelsea's hearing aids. She said, "This reading is only for normal kids. You and Daddy will have to go home." Chelsea's lip quivered, and the librarian announced loudly, "Sorry, parents. We're waiting to start until the disruption goes away." She pointed at Chelsea. My daughter teared up, and I was about to storm over. But then one of the other parents stepped in and told the librarian Chelsea had every right to be here, and if she excluded her, they were all going home. The librarian instantly smiled and backed down, saying, "Of course everyone is welcome." But she had this weird grin like she was planning something. Chelsea sat with everyone, and the librarian said every kid would read one by one. They went around, and Chelsea listened intently, happy her hearing aids worked perfectly. But then, it was her turn. She read "Once Upon," and suddenly started shrieking. She dropped the book, covered her ears, and fell sideways on the rug screaming. I looked over and saw the librarian in her reading chair smirking, hiding a small handheld device in her book, and cranking the dial on the device 2/3 up. I instantly realized she was holding a telecoil, the device libraries use to assist hearing aids. She'd paired it to Chelsea's hearing aid, and was blasting tone feedback directly into Chelsea's ear. To Chelsea, it sounded like a fire alarm 3 inches from her ear. She screamed, "Please make it stop."
Is
And I
this
instantly
not
ran
right?
over. The librarian turned the dial down and loudly said, "I tried to warn everybody. Some children just aren't ready for story hour." I carried my crying daughter away and wiped her tears. But as we were about to leave, the librarian fixed her hair, and I noticed she had her own hearing aid. I immediately realized she had only done this to my own daughter because she was ashamed about her own deafness. So I figured, why not fix that? I told Chelsea, and I had an idea, and her eyes lit up. She crept over to the drawer where the telecoils were kept and brought one back. Chelsea smiled and connected it to the librarian's hearing aid, and we waited for her to speak. She stood up and said, "I hope you all had a great time," and suddenly she started screaming. She clutched her ear and fell to the floor shrieking. Chelsea had the dial cranked all the way up. It was like listening to a jet engine pressed against her ear. The librarian was yanking at her ear. She pulled out her hearing aid and threw it across the floor and just laid there with blood dripping from her ear. Her eardrum was burst, and the other parents just stared at her, realizing she had the same disability she mocked Chelsea for. The librarian tried to rupture my daughter.
After closing up, I walked outside and saw an old lady.
Can you explain
sitting
to
on
the
the
viewers
passenger
what
seat
just
of the car.
happened?
Just
Oh, okay. So when deaf
The
people,
librarian tried to rupture my daughter.
they have hearing aids, okay? And so little Chelsea had hearing aids, okay? Okay. And then the librarian also had hearing aids. Okay? And then, listen.
Eardrum. I brought my 5-year-old Chelsea to the library for children's reading hour, but when she sat down, the librarian walked up to her and pointed at Chelsea's hearing aids. She said, "This reading is only for normal kids. You and Daddy will have to go home." Chelsea's lip quivered, and the librarian announced loudly, "Sorry, parents."
This girl
we're
is
waiting."
messed up. If you don't know what quivered means, it's where her lips like start to cry and stuff.
Start until the disruption goes away. She pointed at Chelsea. My daughter teared up, and I was about to storm over. But then one of the other parents stepped in and told the librarian Chelsea had every right to be here, and if she excluded her, they were all going home. The
What's the
librarian
device she
instantly smiled
used?
and backed
Oh,
down, saying, "Of
wait.
course everyone is welcome." But she
Just
had
wait.
this weird grin
Watch.
like she was planning something. Chelsea sat with everyone, and the librarian said every kid would
Shit.
read one by
Oh,
one.
sorry.
They went
Shit.
around, and Chelsea listened
you
intently,
can-
tapping her hearing aids worked perfectly.
shit.
But then it was her turn. She read "Once Upon" and suddenly started shrieking. She dropped the book, covered her ears, and fell sideways on the rug screaming. I looked over and saw the librarian in her reading chair smirking, hiding a small handheld device in her book, and cranking the dial on the device 2/3 up. I instantly realized she was holding a telecoil. The device
telecoil.
librarians use to assist hearing
Okay.
aid.
It's where, okay, so do you know how like a fire alarm's like really as loud? Okay?
Yeah.
It's like they're hearing a fire alarm inside their ear. Okay?
Okay.
So, listen.
She compared it to Chelsea's hearing aid and was
She
blasting
compared
tone
it
feedback.
to hearing aids. And so Chelsea had hearing aids. So she was turning up the fire alarm in her ears all the way up.
Directly into Chelsea's ear.
Why do they
To
have
Chelsea,
that?
It sounded like a fire alarm 3 inches from her ear. She screamed, "Please make it stop!" And I instantly.
By the way, I'm
ran over.
ending the
The
vlog.
librarian turned the dial down and loudly said,
So we
"I
gotta
tried to
edit
warn
this
everybody.
and then it could
Some
go out
children
to
just
the
aren't
public."
ready for story hour." I carried